You have been kissing her the same way for years, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you already know that something is missing. Not technique, not timing, something quieter than that, something that happens in the half second before your lips touch, in the quality of your breath, in whether your mind is actually there or somewhere else entirely. She feels all of it, every single time, and the gap between the kisses that stay with her for days and the ones she forgets before she's brushed her teeth. That gap is not about what you do with your mouth, it is about 3 words. Specifically, the moment you choose to say them, and the neurological event that those words trigger inside her body before she consciously registers them. What those words actually are is not what you think they are. And the reason they work is the one thing nobody in this space is talking about. My name is Dr. Mary Edwards. I am a psychosexual therapist, and my clinical practice is grounded in the neuroscience of attachment and arousal. Specifically in Stephen Porges' Polyvagal Theory, Emily Nagoski's dual control model of sexual response, and Sue Johnson's emotionally focused therapy. Together, those 3 frameworks form the most coherent scientific picture we currently have of why women respond the way they do to intimacy, and why so much of what men do, with the best possible intentions, lands in exactly the wrong register of her nervous system. Today, I am going to walk you through 3 specific phrases, the precise mechanism behind why each one works, and the calibration cues that tell you when the shift is actually happening. Stay through to the 3rd phrase because that one operates at a level the first 2 never reach, and understanding it requires building on everything that comes before it. I also have a free guide for you today, and I want to make sure you know about it before we go further into this. Here is the thing most men never get told, and that I want you to carry through this entire video. Arousal in women is not primarily a physical event. It is a nervous system event. The body cannot fully open into pleasure when the threat detection system is running in the background. And here is what that means for you, practically, in the moment of a kiss. Physical technique applied to a nervous system that is still in low-level alert does almost nothing. Words, specifically words delivered in the right way at the right moment, can shift her nervous system state faster than touch can. That is not poetry. That is polyvagal biology, and once you understand it, everything about how you approach intimacy changes. I want to tell you about a man I'll call Daniel, composite of several clients, anonymized completely, but the pattern is one I have seen time and again in my practice. Daniel was a physically attentive partner. He paid attention. He was present in a way that many men are not, but he told me quietly that he felt like he was always working hard to create something that never quite arrived. Like he was pushing a door open that was almost ready to swing, but never quite did. We spent several sessions on his communication in the moments just before and during physical intimacy, not on technique, on language, on the specific quality of his verbal presence. Within 3 weeks, his partner pulled him aside after an evening together and said something she had not said in years. I feel like I can actually let go with you. That shift did not come from a new move or a different approach. It came from 3 specific changes in what he said and when he said it. What you are about to learn is the same sequence he learned, and the same shift is completely available to you tonight. Before I go any further, I want to tell you about the free guide that goes alongside this video. It is called The Presence Protocol: 7 Phrases That Shift Her Nervous System. It extends everything we are covering here into a complete reference you can keep. 7 specific phrases mapped to specific moments in an intimate encounter, with the neurological rationale for each one explained clearly. The link is in the description below. Download it after this video, because what you are about to hear in the next several minutes is the foundation that makes every phrase in that guide actually work. And the foundation starts here. The first shift, and this one rewires the entire dynamic before anything else physically begins, is what I call the safety declaration. Not a compliment, not a warm-up, a very specific verbal signal that targets her neuroception, which is the term Stephen Porges uses to describe the nervous system's unconscious, continuous scanning of the environment for cues of safety or threat. Her nervous system is doing this right now in every moment, regardless of whether she is consciously aware of it. It never stops. And here is what that means for intimacy. Even when she wants to be present with you, even when her conscious mind is entirely willing, if her neuroception is still picking up ambient signals of disconnection or urgency or performance pressure, her ventral vagal system, the branch of the autonomic nervous system that supports social engagement, trust, and genuine openness, stays partially offline. Touch lands on a body that is still half-guarded. And half-guarded feels like almost nothing compared to what she is actually capable of feeling when that system is fully engaged. The safety declaration addresses this directly. It does not say, "You're beautiful," though that has its own value in its own moment. It says something that communicates at the level of her nervous system. I am not rushing anywhere. I am not performing for anyone. I am here specifically with you, and I am not going anywhere. The three words that accomplish this most efficiently, delivered in the right tone and at the right moment, are simply, "I'm right here." That is the phrase, 3 words, but the delivery is everything, and I need to be precise about this. Say it at a volume that is just above a whisper, not theatrical, not studied, but quiet enough that she has to be close to hear it. Make eye contact before you say it. Hold that eye contact for a full 2 to 3 seconds after you finish the sentence. Do not follow it immediately with anything else. Let it land completely. What you are doing neurologically is sending a prosodic signal, voice tone, rhythm, and intimacy of volume directly through her auditory processing to her autonomic nervous system. Porges's research describes this pathway in polyvagal terms. The prosodic qualities of a trusted voice, specifically low volume, slow rhythm, and downward intonation, are read by the nervous system as a cue of safety before the semantic content of the words even registers consciously. The words matter, but the music of how you say them matters more. The calibration cue here is her breath. When the safety declaration lands, you will notice her breath shift. It will slow slightly and deepen, and her shoulders will drop a fraction. That is parasympathetic activation. That is her neuroception updating its read of the environment from ambient alert to genuine safety. If you do not see that within 10 to 15 seconds, do not push forward. Simply repeat the phrase once more, slower, with sustained eye contact. The absence of the breath shift is information. It means her system is still running background noise, distraction, stress, unresolved tension from earlier in the day. And what she needs is more time in this verbal register, not more physical escalation. Advancing physically before that shift occurs is exactly why so many physically capable men find themselves working against a resistance that should not be there. Now, here is the piece that almost no one in this space is willing to say out loud. And this is the answer to what I planted at the beginning of this video. Why words during a kiss can shift her experience faster than touch can. The reason is not psychological in the soft sense. It is structural. According to Emily Nagoski's dual control model, which draws on the original research of John Bancroft and Eric Jansen, her sexual response system has 2 separate mechanisms running simultaneously. The sexual excitation system, which scans for signals to approach pleasure, and the sexual inhibition system, which scans for signals to withdraw from risk. These are 2 independent neurological systems. They are not on a single dial that moves from off to on. They are 2 separate dials. And here is the critical insight. You can increase excitation all night long, and if the inhibition system is still running, it cancels out the gain. The most common reason the inhibition system stays active during physical intimacy is not a lack of attraction. It is a lack of felt safety in the relational context. And the fastest way to reduce inhibition system activity is not touch. It is language, specifically language that provides the nervous system with evidence that this moment is safe, that there is no performance expectation, and that she is seen as a full person and not a physical outcome. That is what the remaining two phrases are designed to deliver. The second phrase, and this one targets the inhibition system directly, is what I call the witnessed desire. Imagine the moment in the middle of a kiss when everything has softened and her body is beginning to respond and you feel the shift in her. Most men, at that exact moment, accelerate. They push forward because the signal feels like an invitation to move. Here is what actually serves her better. Pause, pull back just slightly, not away, but to a still close proximity where she can feel your presence, but the momentum has deliberately slowed. Then say quietly, "I love the way you feel right now." Not a performance, not a line, a genuine spoken observation of her in this moment as she is. What this phrase does neurologically is provide input to the inhibition system that directly contradicts its primary concern, which is the fear of being evaluated. The inhibition system is extraordinarily sensitive to perceived judgment. And the most efficient antidote to evaluation fear is witnessed, verbal acceptance of exactly what is, without escalation or direction. When she hears those words in this moment, her inhibition system receives direct evidence that she is not being assessed. She is being appreciated. The neurochemical result is a reduction in cortisol, which is the stress hormone that Nagoski's work identifies as one of the most potent direct inhibitors of arousal. Cortisol and full arousal cannot coexist at high levels. Remove the cortisol signal, and the excitation system, which has been building this entire time, suddenly has no brake holding it back. The calibration cue for this phrase is warmth in her hands and a slight forward lean in her body. She will close the distance you just created rather than widening it. That is her inhibition system releasing. What you are feeling in that forward lean is not just desire. It is trust made physical. If she stays still or creates slightly more distance, honor that completely. That is information about where her nervous system is, not information about whether she wants to be with you. Return to the safety declaration. Stay there. The sequence is not a timeline. It is a responsiveness loop. The third phrase is the one I saved for last deliberately because it operates at a level the first two never reach, and it requires something from you that has nothing to do with words. Before I give it to you, I need you to understand something about attachment neuroscience. John Bowlby's foundational work on attachment and Mary Ainsworth's research on the secure base response establish that human beings in intimate relationships are continuously and unconsciously asking one central question of their partner. Are you there for me? Are you accessible, responsive, and genuinely engaged? Sue Johnson built her entire clinical model of emotionally focused therapy on this finding. And what her decades of clinical work demonstrate is that the moments of greatest vulnerability and the moments of greatest potential depth in physical intimacy are also the moments when this attachment question is loudest. She is not thinking it consciously, but her nervous system is asking it, and her nervous system is listening for the answer in everything you do and say. The third phrase is, "I've got you." That is it, 3 words. But what they do in the context of a nervous system that is now in a state of genuine parasympathetic openness, following the sequence you have already built, is extraordinary. Think of it this way. Arousal at its deepest level requires surrender. And surrender is not possible without the felt experience of being held. Not physically held, though that matters too. Held in the sense of, if I let go completely, something safe will meet me. The fear that prevents deep arousal is not the fear of pleasure. It is the fear of disappearing into pleasure with no one truly present to receive you on the other side. "I've got you" is a direct answer to that fear, delivered at the exact neurological moment when the system is most capable of integrating it. The oxytocin release that accompanies heard words of genuine reassurance from a trusted partner in close physical proximity with touch present is not a small event. Oxytocin directly suppresses hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis activity, the entire stress response cascade, and simultaneously facilitates parasympathetic nervous system dominance. Her body in that moment receives a compound signal: safety, trust, presence, and permission. And what follows from that state, when the inhibition system is quiet and the excitation system has been building across the entire sequence, is not manufactured. It is simply what her body was always capable of, finally given the conditions to arrive. Deliver this phrase slowly, with your mouth very close to her ear. Warm breath, complete stillness in your body for the 2 seconds that follow, and then follow your presence, not your agenda. Now here is the action plan I promised you. Choose an evening this week, not a special occasion, just a regular evening, and begin the sequence 30 to 40 minutes before any physical contact. That buffer of time is not wasted. It is the environment in which her nervous system makes the transition from the day's sympathetic activation, work, responsibility, cognitive load, ambient stress, into the ventral vagal state where intimacy of this depth is possible. Lower the ambient light in the room. Sit close enough that your physical proximity is felt, but do not initiate touch immediately. Start with conversation that is unhurried and genuinely curious. Ask her something about her day that requires a real answer, and listen fully. Spend at least 5 minutes there without any physical agenda. This is your first checkpoint. Her voice will slow and her sentences will get longer. That is her nervous system beginning the transition. When the moment feels right, not when you decide it is time, but when her body language and voice qualities signal that she has genuinely arrived in the room with you, move toward her slowly and deliver the safety declaration. "I'm right here." Watch for the breath shift. From that point, let the physical and verbal unfold in the sequence I've described without rushing the transition between each phrase. The entire arc from first phrase to third phrase should run between 20 and 40 minutes, depending entirely on her signals, not your timeline. Your second checkpoint is the forward lean after the witnessed desire. When that happens, you are in the final phase. Everything that follows belongs to the two of you, but you will know in that moment that you have done something genuinely different, not because of technique, but because of what you were willing to be present enough to offer. The relationship that is built through this kind of consistent, neurologically grounded presence over months and years is categorically different from the one built through physical attention alone. It becomes, in the language of attachment theory, a secure base, and research consistently shows that within a secure attachment context, both partners experience not just greater relational satisfaction, but deeper, more sustained physical intimacy than at any earlier point in the relationship. You are not just improving a single evening, you are building a nervous system memory in her of what it feels like to be fully met by you. Let me leave you with the core of what we covered today, framed in a way that I hope lands differently now than it would have at the start. Physical intimacy, at its deepest, is a nervous system negotiation, not a physical performance. Arousal is not produced by escalation. It is revealed by safety. The sexual inhibition system does not respond to persistence or technique. It responds to evidence of genuine presence and trusted connection. Words, specifically words delivered with warmth and precise timing, are the fastest pathway to reducing inhibitory activation because they reach the nervous system through prosodic channels that predate conscious processing. And the 3 phrases I gave you today, "I'm right here," I love the way you feel right now, and I've got you are not scripts. They are invitations. They work because they are true, and because you mean them, and because you say them at the moment she most needs to hear that they are real. That is what changes the quality of intimacy between two people, not a move, a moment of being genuinely, neurologically, irreducibly present. For tonight, before any physical contact with your partner, say the words, "I'm right here," while making sustained eye contact and without following it with anything else. Just those 3 words, just the stillness after. That is your one action for tonight. If this channel has been valuable to you, if the science here has given you something real and usable, I would genuinely love for you to subscribe, because this is what we do here every week. Real neuroscience, real clinical frameworks, real tools that change the actual texture of your relationships rather than just your performance in them. And I want to ask you something worth thinking about before you go. What is one moment in your relationship where you felt genuinely, completely present, not focused on what you were doing, but just there? And what was different about the intimacy that followed? Leave that in the comments. I read every single one. I'm Dr. Mary Edwards, and I'll see you in the next one.